Do it. Do it.
Welcome to a special Halloween edition of the Austin Otaku Podcast, hosted by Jesse McDonald and Keith Goode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a special Halloween edition of the Austin Otaku Podcast. My name is Jesse McDonald, and joined yet again by my ghost with the most co-host, Keith Goode. Keith, how's it going?
I'm groovy.
So good. I'm
How
so
are you?
happy we did this. I'm good. It's been a busy couple of weeks as we're kind of changing some stuff up for the end of the year. So I'm really happy to end the week this way.
Yes. Thank God it's Friday, or whatever deity of choice you choose to thank for Friday.
Thank Freya. Awesome. Well, today, for our very special Halloween episode and the very first panel edition, we have four very special guests for the Austin Otaku Podcast that Keith and I have known for a very long time from the search industry, especially in the conference scene. So returning to the mic this week is our number 3 best guest on the Austin Otaku Podcast, Casey Markee. He is the founder of MediaWise, a marketing consulting firm that focuses on smart SEO for food and lifestyle bloggers. If you want to learn more about him and his hobbies, definitely check out episode 8 of our podcast. Remember, 3rd most played, 3rd best episode.
You can get him to second, folks. You can totally get him to second. And we're also joined by one of my favorite fellow bald and bearded specimens of nerdy awesomeness, Greg Gifford, or as Jesse calls him, Greg Gifford. Or is it Dreg Gifford?
Dreg Gifford.
He is the vice president of search at Search Lab, a regular speaker on the conference circuit, an instructor for SEMrush, and a regular blogger and vlogger. He loves movies, tattoos, certain TV shows, video games, and snowboarding.
Next, we have the SEO director at Cardinal Digital Marketing and DFW SEM Association board member, John McAlpin. Most recently, you probably heard John alongside Nava Hopkins, Danny Goodwin, and myself as we discuss search marketing and heavy metal music. In addition to his love for music, John is a movie and TV buff and a huge basketball fan.
Lastly, but not leastly, we have Shelly Fagin. She's a consultant, technical SEO, SEMrush brand ambassador, conference speaker, industry awards judge, and blogger. Like myself, in her spare time, she is a hair care and skincare junkie. Additionally, she's a regular card shark and weather nerd. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Yay. So exciting to have you guys here. This is going to be a really good panel. I'm really excited about this. And we're hoping to make it nice and spooky and scary for everyone. So, who knows? Maybe we can put a rated R on this particular episode.
I think we should put a rated R on it.
Costume.
See, I appreciate the, no one is probably going to see this, but I appreciate the Blade Runner. I wore my Halloween 4 shirt.
You can tell that from like the top edge. You can tell that's what that is.
Hell yeah.
That is talent, dude.
Yeah, brother.
It's actually, it's like the Korean version of Blade Runner.
That's Japanese.
Nice.
Or
dig
Japanese. I don't know, whatever it is. I have a bunch of shirts that are like Asian movie shirts, so I never know which country it's from.
I dig it.
So Today I'm wearing my NASA t-shirt. I'm a NASA engineer. That's my Halloween costume.
Spooky for space.
Yeah, I have my glasses on too. So, yeah.
So, thank you all for being here. This is our 13th episode of the podcast, so we decided that it came at the absolute perfect time. Why not make it a Halloween panel? Because Halloween is a big thing in my life. Growing up, it was always my favorite thing. My wife and I got married on Halloween. Big fan. Wasn't really celebrated as hardcore back where I'm from, so it's a special thing for me, and we kind of go all out. So wanted to make this a really special episode. So thanks for joining.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah. And because we have so many people on the call, we've sort of changed up the format a little bit. We'll go through a few topics before we get to our Tell Me Something Good segment, and then do another series of topics before we get to our special Halloween lightning round. What we'd like to do is make sure everyone has a chance to talk. So we'll give everybody a couple of minutes to give their answers to specific topics, and then we'll do a group discussion. But like in the presidential debate, I have installed shock collars on all of you, so I will shock you if you speak over your opponent.
So this is on our necks.
You can't see them. They're there though. Trust me.
You obviously didn't get the package that we sent you.
Drats foiled again.
I put it on my dog. So
I put it on my kid.
Prepare for some yelps in the background. Whoops.
So let's kick this off a little tame, as this might be our first rated R episode. So let's talk a little bit about what everyone kind of enjoys most about Halloween. So maybe Shelly, do you want to kick it off?
Oh, well, wait, first of all, I want to clarify. Rated R, does that mean cuss words are okay during this or no? Are
Always.
they still
No,
no?
it does. We
Always.
don't care.
All right.
All episodes are.
Awesome. All right.
Shelly has not listened to the show yet.
Just clarifying. Geez, I will tell you probably, I'm a horror film fanatic. So I grew up, like, my grandparents really did not moderate my TV at all. And so I would on and just get fascinated by some of probably the most inappropriate things you possibly could. And a lot of times it was scary movies. And what was so cool is all of my cousins were little wussies. And they were such babies. And they still tell me to this day that their most trauma came from sleepovers when I would subject them to scary movies and they'd wake up screaming in the middle of the night. And I think that's so much fun. I don't know. I love it. I love scary times of the year. And just honestly, I've now literally turned into a parent who traumatizes my kids in the same way I traumatize my cousins. So
It's good for them.
It's good for them. It is. How about yourself, Greg?
I've just always been a Halloween fan. I've been a big fan of dressing up and doing the scary stuff. And I actually, 20 years ago was, I guess, what you would call a professional costume contest guy. So I would go out and win money at bars and clubs every Halloween weekend. And the best year ever, I won 10 grand in one weekend.
Wow.
So I was really serious. I would spend significant time planning what I would do and wearing these just crazy costumes. And, it was a whole lot of fun. That's the one thing that is kind of not cool about having kids is now I can't do that anymore. So I transfer all of it onto making crazy costumes for my kids. But yeah, I love it. Horror movies have always been my favorite. I actually wrote my thesis for film school was on postmodern horror movies.
Whoa.
So I'm a big horror fan.
Nice. How about yourself, Casey?
Yeah, I grew up in Kansas, so again, holidays were great. You didn't get a chance to do much else. We always had the haunted hay rides because we didn't have anything else to do. Of course, that was the good old days when you could walk, unmolested throughout town late at night and walk 2 miles to town and 2 miles back to your house and be relatively safe. But yeah, I love Halloween. My kids, they're teenagers now. One's a junior, one's a senior, so they don't take it as seriously as they did before. But we always had a great time taking the kids around and the like. Greg, do you remember when we were in PubCon and we went to before they got rid of the horror dome at the Adventure Dome? Remember that at Circus Circus?
Hell yeah, man, that thing was awesome.
And I took you in the car and we went down there because we were going to do it, and it was closed.
Yeah, but I went to it another time, and that thing was the coolest. I still wish they had it. It was not as cool as they had the haunted house that Eli Roth did.
Oh yeah. Well,
the Goratorium, and that thing was freaking amazing. I wish that had worked out.
We took Blake to the Universal Studios, the haunted nights where they had all the things last
I'm
year.
I'm super bummed to not get to do that this year.
Yeah, tough break.
Oh man. Hey John, so how about you?
If we can go back, if you don't mind, Greg, you can't just like brush over. I won $10,000 on a costume contest and not tell us what the costume was.
Good point.
I was, gosh, it's tough to describe. Okay, so I was a clown, but I was on drywall stilts, but I had crutches for the arms with fake monster hands on the arms. So I would walk around on all fours like a gorilla. But at that point, I'm already 6 feet tall. So people thought it was like two people in a costume. And then I would stand up. So I was 10 feet tall. And then when I put the arms out with the crutches, it was like a 12-foot arm span. But then I had two other fake arms that were attached about at my waist that were tied on by like fishing line. So when I picked up the main arms, it picked up the other arms. So I was this big four-arm clown. And then I was like really, I always have been really into like Hollywood style, like glue on your face makeup.
Practical
So I had a
effects,
I had a really badass foam latex clown face on that was super scary. And so, you know, it looked like it was a mask, but then when you start talking, you know, it's moving with your face. So it was just a really, and it turns out there are a ton of people, especially really big, bulky, you know, football player types that are terrified of clowns. So it was a fun costume to wear. But I won a ton of money because I was one of the first people to do the whole stilts thing years ago.
Man, like, did you fall? It sounds like if you fall, you're like, oh, it's over.
Oh, yeah. But it actually wasn't that bad because you got the stilts I was walking around on all fours most of the time. And if somebody does start to go that direction, you've got crutches in both hands so you can just kind of turn around and keep yourself from falling. But a couple years later, I was a giant robot. And I walked upright the whole time because the arms had like things in it. And that was difficult. That was a lot scarier.
Wow. That must have hurt. It didn't hurt your back, huh?
It didn't hurt my back when I was the clown. I also did a demon that was that way. So I was the clown, and then I did a clown the year after, and then I did demon for 2 years before I ended up doing the robot. And it didn't hurt my back, but the straps on the drywall stilts fucked up my legs because the drywall stilts are meant to be stood on, not to be like leaning over. So it put a lot of stress on the strap to keep my leg in there. So I like the first year I did it, I was bleeding. Like it really messed up my legs. But then it did hurt my back the year that I was the big robot because I had 40 pounds of batteries strapped to my back to light all of the custom neon stuff that I had on. So that was tough.
That's dedication, man.
It totally is.
Yeah, I spent 3 months making that costume when I was a robot.
I don't know what's more scary, that story or the look on Shelly Fagin's face when you used an obscenity.
She's just thinking, why couldn't I?
Why did I agree to this?
I was supposed to be the first one to use that word. So, John, what's your affinity for Halloween?
I'm not been much of a costume wearing person, but I love looking at the costumes and the decorations. I like every year. Same thing with Christmas. You go around and drive around, look at how much people go all out on the yards and stuff. But for me, it's always been the movies. I'm just a huge horror movie fan, and so like, I mean, I'll watch horror movies all year round, but that's when they really come out, all the reruns and things like that. So it's all about the movies for me.
Nice. Seems like everybody's got a good memory around Halloween. Any favorites out there? Anything that sort of strikes you as your favorite Halloween memory? Besides winning $10,000 in a costume contest. Everybody's afraid to speak because they're like, I didn't win $10,000. It doesn't count.
I mean, I've always been really into going to haunted houses. So that's always been, you know, besides the costume side of things, I've always been just a massive, massive fan of haunted houses. And I just have, I mean, in college, I was a mascot. So I was friends with all the cheerleaders and found out my senior year, this girl that was a sophomore cheerleader had never been to a haunted house in her life. And it wasn't because she was scared to go. She grew up in a small town and didn't really have the opportunity. So I took her to one here in Dallas, and it was a really, really good one. And about halfway through, she just said, fuck this, and just sat down. And I was like, you can't.
That's not going to help things.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't like a date situation because that would have made it a million times worse. But it was just friends. But it was just me and her, and I'm like, you can't sit down. You got to go. And she's like, this messed up. I'm not doing it. So the guy came out from the scene and was like, hey, are you okay? And she was like, I can't do this. Like, no. And he was like, oh, well, there's exits. And it turns out in every haunted house, which I didn't know until this, every single little scene, there's an exit door. So if people freak out, they can take you out. That's like part of the requirements of building it or whatever. So he's like, you can go out right here. And she's like, all right, cool, let's go. And I'm like, I'll see you at the end. She's like, you're not going to go out? And I'm like, I just dropped $30. This is a good haunted house. I'm going to go through the haunted house. So I let her go out and I kept going. That was pretty awesome. The Eli Roth one in Vegas was amazing. The dome thing at Circus Circus was really kick-ass too. So I've been to a lot of fun stuff.
See, my memory, I mean, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but getting married on Halloween and having everyone come in costume was super cool.
That's awesome.
I need to post more of those pictures because it's awesome.
Like
It's very much like a Gomez, Morticia, Addams family sort of thing. Like, there were people dressed as like Voorhees at my wedding.
That's awesome.
I think my aunt came as a nun, which was kind of weird. Yeah, there was a lot of really cool shit. But
do all your spouses handle haunted houses pretty well? Because I could tell you, mine does not. We took her down, and we hadn't only been married 2 years, and she'd never once ever said that she didn't like haunted houses. And so we went down to the Del Mar Fairgrounds here in San Diego, and they have this fright dome, terror dome thing that they have set up, and we went with another couple. And not once did she say she didn't like haunted houses until we'd already paid, as $30 each, made it to the front of it. She couldn't go in. Like, what? I'm like, no, can't do it. She tried to walk in, didn't even get to the first bin, immediately came out. And I'm like, this is the first time you're telling me this. Yeah, sorry. No, can't do it. I will see you outside. And so she just out $30, just like that. Boom. Like that. And it was a good haunted house, but it was learn something new every day. Good.
Yeah, they're not cheap. Yeah. Go ahead, Shelly.
They are very expensive. That is exactly what I love about my relationship, because Brian is a scaredy pants. He doesn't like at all. He just can't stand it, and he tolerates it all for me. But like, if it's anything that's like supernatural or like any Ouija board things or anything, he's like, nope, I'm not inviting those spirits into my house. Like, he gets so freaked out.
Those aren't allowed in my house either.
Yeah, I don't mess with Ouija boards. No thanks.
See, our front doormat is a Ouija board.
Nice.
So
yeah, but there's a difference between you've got a Ouija board front doormat. That's kind of kitschy and cool. It's not like you're sitting there trying to communicate people.
Fair.
Or communicate with entities with your doormat.
Well, no,
there's a big difference.
Watch the movies where they do that.
Oh yeah. See, we have a rule at the house because I mean we keep kind of spooky stuff up around the house all year long. We have a rule that if it's Ouija board related, it can't have arms on it that move like a clock or anything. That's a no-go. Because that's just welcoming shit in, not doing that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have I really hate that, obviously, for more reasons than this, but I really hate that COVID-19 is that, we still have this pandemic going on because we can't have the haunted houses this year that we've had in the past. Austin has a fantastic haunted house here called House of Torment, and they always put on a fantastic show. And listen, I'm at the point of my life where my ability to suspend disbelief is just gone. It's supernatural stuff I don't believe in. I don't believe in any of this stuff. I'm a complete...
Whoa, really?
100%. I don't believe in any of this
we'll have to
stuff.
get back to that then.
Yeah. But so nothing like in most horror movies scares me except for the ones that are like about slashers, for example, because that can happen. You can have a psycho that goes around slashing people. That can happen. But somebody rising from the grave, But, I still enjoy House of Torment because I go in and I'm like, that's an impressive set. That's an impressive costume. That's a really well done job of acting like you're going to kill me,
So what you need to do is next year when they have it again, go to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios, either in California or Florida. Because
I'll set it up for you, man.
It's the most, like the whole time, yeah, you get scared. You do get scared. They're really good. But it's almost, you have this separation from how scary the haunted house is because you're so in awe of the sets. It's like movie, like they had one, the last 2 years they've done Stranger Things, and it's legit like you are walking through the Stranger Things house. Or this year they did Ghostbusters, and there was stuff where it was like you're on the set of Ghostbusters. Like they spend millions on these sets. It's ridiculous.
The Ghostbusters one was fantastic because it was like multi-level. So you get in the elevator and they take you up, and there's another whole story of sets there. But yeah, we did it here at Universal here in Hollywood last year. My son, 17 at the time, couldn't make it through all the houses.
Whoa.
Yeah, I haven't let him live it down since.
They have one of the House of 1,000 Corpses.
Oh yeah, they have the House of 1,000 Corpses.
Yeah, my kid only did that once. He wouldn't do that one again. He was like, "That's so scary."
The Stranger Things one. That's why when you guys are going to do this, if you guys ever do these Halloween Horror Nights, invest in the VIP badge.
Yeah, for sure.
Literally
from now on.
We have a private guide, all that stuff.
There's a House of 1,000 Corpses haunted house.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And ironically, at Universal Studios, where Universal turned Rob Zombie down to create House of 1,000 Corpses.
Yeah.
So.
One of the best COVID adaptions I've seen is in Dallas. Reindeer Manor is an actual haunted house that they do every year. Like legit, the house is haunted. So for COVID, they said basically it's one of those you drive down a dirt road and it's like legit scary. Just the road itself just to get there. They turn the whole property into a drive-through haunted house where you tune into the radio and they give you clues. It's like there's been an outbreak and zombies are everywhere or something, and you have to get to the drop zone or whatever, and they give you clues on the radio.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
That's
awesome. Where's that?
I would assume
it's in Red Oak, just south of Dallas.
Now,
Yeah.
I mentioned to you the Del Mar thing that we had here. It's called the Scream Zone now that the memory is coming back. It's drive-through this year, so we're going to take the kids tomorrow night, and it's hilarious. You see, I will be taking the kids, not the wife. He's been very clear about that. I said it's in a car. You don't have to get out. Not good enough. Not good enough. So we'll let you know how that goes. But it should be
and get me links to both of those, because when I write up the show notes, I'll provide links to the listeners in our show notes.
Yeah.
I need to know about any of those that you actually have to sign a waiver. If you die here, you won't sue us.
We have a waiver for the Universal houses.
They have one in Fort Worth that's really cool, where it's one of those multi-level ones too. It's in this old warehouse, so it's just creepy anyway because it's an old abandoned warehouse. But they have one section that you come into, and you have to line up outside of the room. So it kind of breaks the haunted house experience because you have your whole system that you're going through, but then it's almost like you stop and there's a secondary waiting area. But you go into this one section and it's a maze, and they turn off all the lights and they give you a glow stick, and you have 5 minutes to find your way out of the maze, and nobody's jumping out at you or anything. You're just in pitch black darkness with and the glow sticks are like this big. You have a little bitty glow stick and you're holding it, and it's you might have just a 2-foot hole in the wall that you have to crawl through to get to the next room or whatever. And it's massive. And we've done it several years and never made it out. And then in 5 minutes, they turn on the lights and everybody goes. But apparently if you make it out, you get your entrance fee, your $30 for the haunted house back. So it's free.
Whoa.
If you can find out your way out. So it's kind of cool.
Your horror experience is just being in darkness.
Shelly, it's not a haunted house per se, but if you in Vegas, Zach Bagans, the guy that does Ghost Adventures, his museum is there, and you have to sign a waiver to go in. So, if you bring any spirit shit home with you, that's on you. Because, he has stuff from the Warrens, the couples from The Conjuring. He has shit from them.
Nice.
So he's you're going to come into contact with us if any of this follows you home.
Yeah.
Not on me.
Cursed objects.
No, that's definitely legit. I've had friends. I have a friend who does every horror attraction in the country. If there's a haunted somewhere, so in New Orleans has a whole bunch, and he was reported going touring haunted places, and then it following him down the street, just weird stuff. So yeah, I'm careful about which ones are the waivers or anyone can come. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the next topic. I actually brought this up myself because I think it's one of the types of horror movies that can actually get to me, Mr. Non-believer, Mr. Too big to be scared of anything. But slasher movies. How about each of you tell us what's your favorite slasher movie and why? We'll start back with you, John.
My favorite is the movie that actually got me into horror in the first place. I'm 11 years old at like a sleepover with all the guys, and we're flipping through the channels. And this is the one friend that has the HBO channel. So we're all like, let's go see what's on there. The second we flip to it is a naked woman jumping out of the lake. And we're like, go back to that channel. And then it's Friday the 13th, part 2. And so we're like, we're there for that. And then all of a sudden this guy in a hockey mask shows up with a machete, and we're like, what's going on? And so instantly hooked into the Jason series. And from there, it's all off the deep end, from there to Nightmare on Elm Street and all the classic slashers. And so that was what got me into it. Always a favorite.
Nice. Very nice. And by the way, I'm not sure the hockey mask didn't make its appearance until what, 3?
3, yeah.
So it may have been a pillowcase that was.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think it was.
Burlap sack.
Or burlap sack. Exactly. So who's next? Let's go with Casey.
More recent, No One Lives, Luke Evans, 2012. That movie is freaking badass. And if any of you have not seen it, you are welcome. Write it down. No One Lives, Luke Evans.
No One Lives?
Yeah, and it is fascinating. It's about a couple who are in a diner, and they're basically marked by a band of highway killers, a family, and they terrorize the couple, not realizing that the guy's a serial killer himself, and he basically just busts them up the whole movie, and it is badass. And I can't say enough about Luke Evans, who is extremely underrated. Love that guy. You guys would know him. He was one of the villains in the Fast and the Furious movies. He's been in a ton of shit, but he is No One Lives. Badass. You guys will love it. Huge.
Is the title a spoiler?
It's a repeated line a couple times, but yeah, it's good. You guys
I was
are
about to ask that. Does anyone live?
Oh yeah. Let's leave it at that.
Obviously, the main guy does.
I'm going to tell you, that movie is extremely underappreciated. I watch it every year. It's that good.
Nice.
Somebody nice to watch it. Yeah. Just that I could get him really scared about picking up hitchhikers and things like that, and making sure who don't talk to strangers. But yeah, it's good. No One Lives, 2012. You guys will love it.
Cool. Gifford?
Man, I got to go with Mike Myers, man.
Yes.
That's the original. It's the one that started everything. And back when I was a kid, we would watch all the Halloween movies except for 3 because that one sucks.
100%.
But the week of Halloween, we'd watch all the Halloween movies, and it led even through college. So even in college, we would get everybody together the week of Halloween and watch all the Halloween movies. And it's always been just a massive thing for me and my close friends, and I absolutely love all of those. And I will be getting a Michael Myers tattoo on my leg when I get down to that section of my body. And yeah, absolutely love it. Super bummed that they had to delay the Halloween kills till next year.
Yeah, that looked good. That looks good.
Yeah.
Remind me, Giff, I can put you in touch with a friend that actually works on those movies.
Holy shit, that's badass.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to ask somebody what the heck they were thinking about when they came up with Season of the Witch. That was literally the worst. I have no idea. I have no idea what they were even thinking.
I actually know the story behind that is they had to make a movie before the rights lapsed, and that was what they could come up with.
Oh, it was so bad.
And it's like, if you go back and look at it, it wouldn't even be so bad if it was at least a decent, scary movie.
Yeah.
But it's just a shitty horror movie. Like, it's so bad.
Yeah, so bad. Shelly, favorite slasher, and why?
Well, so you guys don't know this, but my maiden name is Myers.
Nice.
I used to actually tell all the kids that I was related to Michael Myers. No. Anyway, I have to say, like, the first movies that I really remember, well, they're twofold, but Nightmare on Elm Street, loved all those. Now I watch them and they seem so cheesy. But I remember it was so fun because, I remember going with all my friends to the theater, and I was the only one that wasn't like this. And really that is what really got that love of these like killer movies. So I don't know. I'd say Nightmare on Elm Street, and obviously I like Michael Myers as well. So those are all really good.
I wonder what the psychology is behind the attraction to movies like this, because I know, coming out of the 60s, we had the actual murder from the family. Charles Manson and all of this, and suddenly everyone's attracted to these movies after that, where there's this sort of killer hounding and pursuing everyone until he kills them, or she in some cases. So what do you guys think?
I personally, I think it's because it's realistic in that there's psycho people out there and it can really happen, versus so many people just don't believe in ghosts and that supernatural side of things.
Well, I mean, it's the same sort of thing that if you're like a film person, you went from films being these magical fantasy worlds to, in the 70s and especially in the 80s, becoming more kind of gritty / reality based. So, horror movies have been around for forever, but it was like the classic Universal stuff. And it was still supposed to be scary, but it was like, oh, this is some fantastical thing, blah, 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 blah. Where now it becomes, it's just some dude chasing after you. That could really happen. Same time, the Westerns got more realistic and action movies became more kind of real life based and not like the stupid, like, get to the chopper and like everybody's huge and all that.
I mean, it's also like those low budget ones too seem to be sometimes the scariest. Like, take it back to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Super low budget, but like more realistic, and somehow made it more real grindhouse terrifying.
Yeah. And I actually live in Round Rock, where the house for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre
I know exactly
used to be located.
About.
Yeah. That's maybe 4 miles from where I live, I think.
So
wow.
I grew up near Pflugerville, so I would drive by like the bar and all that stuff where everything was filmed.
I didn't know it was that close. I thought it was way out. That's awesome.
No, it's up here, and it's awesome. Of course, that house is long gone. They've since moved it. So, and there's probably a shopping center. Well, there's a shopping center where it was filmed now, I believe. Sad.
So real quick, because we're about to get into our next segment, because you brought this up, Keith, what is your favorite slasher?
Oh, my favorite slasher. Gosh, I actually recommended this in a previous episode. The Behind the Mask, the Rise of Leslie Vernon. I really enjoyed that movie just because it was taken as a documentary, but it just sort of showed how quickly someone can become sort of funny and charming and immediately turn into a psychopath in just a flip of the dime or whatever. So, or toss of the hat or the snap of the finger, whatever you want to say. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm a Michael Myers guy. I find the idea of The Shape very fascinating, and it's such a palatable movie, especially the first one, compared to all the other slasher movies, because there's so little visual violence in it. There's a bit, but it's not over the top. It's crazy. I love that movie. So with that, I believe we are at the Tell Me Something Good segment of this Halloween edition. So basically, we're going to go over everyone's recommendations, their otaku recommendations, if you will. And let's see let's start out. Casey, what's your recommendation this time around?
I just bought some 3D. I'm a bourbon guy. I know you guys know that. I drink a lot of alcohol. Hey, maybe I drink to forget. Maybe I drink because I like bourbon. Either way, it's a great hobby to have. But I just bought some, I'm not kidding here, I just bought these 3D skull flexible ice cubes, and they're pretty badass. And so if you guys are interested in something like that, you'll get them in like 24 hours. I'm going to paste over the link here, and they can put them in the show notes.
So it's like a silicone mold?
Yes. I made skull ice cubes for my whiskey.
Nice.
Sweet. I dig it.
So what about you, Shelly?
Okay, so I don't really have a product recommendation, but so remember how I said I love to scare my kids? Usually it's intentional. But probably one of my best moments, we had a really, really crappy day. And we actually, my husband was grooming our dog. We had a giant Labradoodle who just passed away, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
But he was awesome. But he got a little nick while he was grooming, and we had to take him in and get him patched up. And we were just having a bad day. And so when I'm having a really bad day, my husband gives in and lets me put on a scary movie because that's usually I have to negotiate for that. And so this is right around the time Cabin in the Woods came out. And I absolutely love this movie. If you have not seen it, it's so cool because it really keeps you on your toes. And you really don't know what's going on until like the very end, which I love because usually I can just know what's going to happen. And yeah. And this one was awesome. Again, my kids, so this was like, 5 or 6 years ago that it came out? Maybe 7. It's probably been 7 years. So like Dylan's 11 now, so that'll tell you how young she was. Jack's only a year older. So probably my oldest kid was like 10 or 11 at the time. The rest were all younger. So we're watching Cabin in the Woods because I'm all for just hardening them as children. And we get through and there's this really awesome scene when things are coming together at the end and all these elevators open and all this like blood starts gushing out and this crazy stuff if you see it. And the kids are like screaming because it's freaking them out. And then all of a sudden we see blood everywhere. Like in our living room, our dog jumped up because we were all freaking out and he was shaking his head. His little ear patch came off and it was a bleeder and gushing everywhere. And just the kids were screaming like bloody murder and it was classic. And so, you know, a good scary movie and just those moments, it's honestly, if you have not seen Cabin in the Woods, it's so good. I didn't give too much away with that, but it's a really cool scene. So,
Shelly, were you laughing like your evil laugh while you were screaming?
Oh my God, it was hilarious. It was the best moment ever. My kids still talk about it to this day, like traumatized or entertained, whichever one, PTSD, who knows, but it was great.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that, Shelly. I didn't know if you were going to recommend Cabin in the Woods or cutting your dog accidentally.
Little this, little that.
But, you know, if that gives you any ideas when you're watching that, like just set the scene because that just made the movie, I'm telling you.
Nice. How about you, John?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What is your otaku recommendation for...
Thank you. That whole story threw me. So, probably this movies don't really scare me. I hate jump scares, so I'm talking about truly terrifying, can't sleep. Like the last one they really do it was like The Exorcist, but like the last movie I watched, it's a modern movie that really got to me, like, mostly because I watched it in like a home theater, pitch black. As Above, So Below.
Oh, that's
Really?
I don't like caves. I don't like the claustrophobia, and I love anything that has to do with paranormal, like demons. Like ghosts, anything like that. Those I enjoy those. So that one, watching pitch black, like in the room, was actually really good.
Ooh, nice.
That or the Hell House series. Both of those kind of similar concepts, but really good.
Awesome.
What about you, Jiff?
Book recommendation for those of you who like to read. Not directly related to Halloween, but kind of. It's a series of books called The Demon Cycle. The guy that wrote it is probably now my favorite writer. The guy's name is Peter V. Brett, and he is by far the best world builder. Like, you really, like, the writing's awesome. But it really is. Like, he's the best world builder, and I was told that the person that recommended it to me said this guy is the most amazing world builder. You get so sucked in, not just because it's an amazing story, but because the world that he builds is so well built and well described, and you keep getting little more tidbits here and there. And I've said the same thing to multiple people, and every time they come back and they're like, "You're right, this guy's freaking amazing." And basically, it's I think 4 or 5 books at this point. I don't remember. But the main concept is it is thousands of years in the future of this world. And at some point, it turns out demons are real, and they've been sleeping for millions of years, and they all wake up and come out. So at night, demons will come out and just kill people. And so it wipes out the vast majority of humanity across the globe. And so then this is years and years and years later, where humanity has kind of adapted to these demons that come out at night, and they have these they call them wards, and it's basically like magical symbols that someone had discovered thousands of years ago that will keep the demons away. Or there's wards that, like, if it's a fire breathing demon and you have a wooden shield with the fire ward on it, then the fire won't catch the wood on fire. So the first novel is called The Painted Man or The Warded Man, depending on when you buy the book, because they've changed the name. But he's a guy that ends up discovering some lost wards, and he tattoos them all over his body. And so he's the main character, and then there's a girl main character and another guy main character that are all separate, but then they end up meeting up with each other, and it's all of their stories, and it covers like 20 years of time and this fight against the demons. And you start to find out, you don't originally realize that it's kind of our world thousands of years in the future, but you start to realize that later on. And it's amazing. And they're long ass books too. Like, I
like
listened to them.
level.
Oh, like, well, I mean, I don't know how many pages, because I actually did them on audio when I was working at Dealeron and driving half an hour each direction. So most audiobooks are like 12, 13, maybe 14 hours. And I think either the second to last or last book was like 32 hours. That's massively long.
So that's how big Stephen King's It is. It's 34 hours.
Yeah, they're all massively, massively long, but you burn through them so fast. They're so good.
Obviously unabridged. Then it says 384 pages on Amazon for The Painted Man paperback international.
Yeah,
edition.
and that one's they get longer and longer as you go.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm praying that they make a movie out of it, because it's
surprising, because Hollywood has no originality. So how come they haven't scooped this stuff up yet?
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they are looking for new stories because they can't come up with their own. Yeah. How about you, Jesse? How about your recommendation for the week?
So I'm going to go with a band that I always go back to this time of year. I have a playlist that I call my spooky music playlist, which is tons of rock metal that just kind of fit the vibe of the month. And it's very much dominated by a band called Ghost. So Ghost is essentially a band from Sweden, led by a guy named Tobias Forge. He dresses as what kind of resembles a goth pope in skull makeup, and has this whole character about being this pope in this weird church, and it's a backing band of random anonymous people called Nameless Ghouls, and you can kind of describe the music as Black Sabbath meets Scooby-Doo. It's really good. It's super poppy. It's super catchy. But if you listen to the lyrics, which there's no screaming or anything, it's very, very well done, very melodic. It's dark. It's super dark. It gets satanic most of the time. It's great. One of this household's favorite bands. So highly recommend them.
Is that interspersed with your recordings of the Wiggles?
Yeah. Actually,
the rest of the stuff for the little one.
Not kidding. I have played literally every one of their albums on vinyl while changing her, because her changing table is next to it. She loves them.
Very soothing. Very soothing.
Eats it up. So Ghost, can't recommend them more. What about you, Keith?
I am going to make a recommendation of a book that actually Matt Siltala caught a picture of me reading at PubCon a few years back. And it was appropriate because everyone was calling me Dr. Evil at the time. But the name of the book is Evil and the Mask. It's by a Japanese writer named Fuminori Nakamura. And it's a really twisted book. It's about an 11-year-old kid. He's called into his father's study. His father's this enigmatic old character, not a very loving character. And basically he tells this kid, I created you to be a cancer in this world. And he reveals to the kid that there is a tradition in their family that as the patriarch reaches the end of their life, they beget one last child to cause misery in the world that cannot be controlled or saved. And so it's from this point of view of this kid who's being basically warped by this family tradition to become a psychopath. Wow. Really interesting, very twisted, but I do recommend that book. So that is my recommendation, and that's it for this week's Tell Me Something Good.
We're gonna have to make a spooky version of the segment. So we talked a little bit about this at one point, and I'd like to dig in a little deeper because this is definitely my favorite side of horror as I've gotten older. but the supernatural side of things, possession movies, things like that, I'm a big fan of myself. And it sounds like the audience is a little split here on that, specifically looking at you, Dr. Good. So what's everyone else's vibes? You like supernatural stuff? You don't like it? Why? Maybe we'll start with you, Casey.
I lived in a haunted house, so I'm all over that stuff. I love it.
You know what? I tell you, maybe, and there are a ton of supernatural elements to it. I'm loving the Lovecraft Country on
Hell
HBO.
yeah.
Yeah.
The best thing on TV right now, period.
Yeah.
And I would say that has a lot of supernatural elements to it. I mean, more kind of I don't know if I guess you, maybe not as much haunted house, but I mean, yeah, because there was haunted house elements in it, especially when when she bought the
Episode 2, right?
Yeah, episode 2, when she bought episode 3, when she bought the house. I mean, I love it. I think if you guys are...
Oh, 3.
That thing has like everything. That has like...
Yeah, it's so good.
Every element in it. And it's badass. So I've been loving that. But yeah, I'm not against it at all. There is a...
Dude, we have pictures. You and me have pictures with ghosts in the graveyard.
Right. That's right. From our haunted limo ride trip that we did in downtown San Diego, Old Town San Diego at the... what's the name of that house?
I don't remember.
It's literally the most haunted house
the other day.
in the States.
It's not the Winchester House. That's outside of San Francisco.
No, gosh darn it. I have to look it up. Yeah, here. Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Barbara. So what about you, John?
So supernatural. I'm halfway through the third Hell House LLC series, and I think this might be one of my favorite supernatural series.
I don't know that one.
I haven't even heard of that.
So essentially, it's actually somewhat recent. There's 3 of them. The first movie, they basically go and they buy this old haunted hotel and they set up a haunted house in it. And then something goes, and it's found footage documentary style. So if you like that stuff, it's fine. But like essentially, the first movie, something goes down. The second movie, they're going through and doing an investigative journalism report about what went down, and they're trying to find out. I can't give a whole lot away, but it's very much in the vein of ghosts and Satan and demon worship and things like that.
Okay.
Woo.
It's the trailer. You're going to be hooked. It's really good.
Nice.
So
I'm totally watching that this weekend.
Yeah, there you go.
I burned through the first 2 in like a day. It's so good.
So yeah, Greg, that was the Whaley house that we went through.
Yeah.
The Whaley house has an incredible history. I mean, literally, one of the kids kills herself, and the whole house is haunted with multiple ghosts. And we've done this spooky, as Greg mentioned, we've done this haunted limo ride kind of thing that starts in Old Town San Diego. I've done it like 3 or 4 times, and basically it's just because the limo takes us around to these various haunted places in San Diego, and we just drink an unlimited amount of hard alcohol, which is the best part of it. So that's the best part. If you're going to go see haunted houses, make sure that you do so lit. That's the best way to go.
That's how you end up dying, sir.
Haven't you been watching these movies?
Yeah, you're not paying attention.
You're not paying attention?
Yeah. I actually think that's the coolest thing is going to see things that have a real history to them. I'll never forget, like growing up, I grew up in Iowa and right on the Mississippi River. And I had a friend, they lived in the coolest old house, and they literally had underground railroad tunnels like underneath their houses. And we used to of course, we were always told, kids, you're not allowed to go down there, but we always did and stuff. And it was always, we loved to torture all the neighborhood kids, but it was so creepy. And we create stories. And of course, there was always like those houses on the edge of town that were barely standing, and you'd spend like 2 hours like telling this story about how haunted it is before everyone finally drives out there and gets the courage to go up on the porch pretty much, but that stuff was always the funnest. I love like growing up. I think like Amityville Horror was like one of my first movies that I like love that story. And of course The Conjuring and all those, because they're just based on these real objects and stories. And that is the stuff like that's another show. Like Brian will not let me watch Conjuring when he's around. He likes thrasher stuff, and it's like that stuff doesn't bother him. It's just the supernatural stuff and that he just will not handle.
Did you show him Sinister?
Oh,
I wish they'd make another one, man. Those Sinister movies are badass.
Isn't that the one with Darth Maul in it, I think?
Oh, that's Insidious.
Oh, Insidious. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Sinister is like halfway between paranormal and halfway between
watching scary movies with your partner, and I'm like trying to get my wife to watch Nightmare Before Christmas. You guys don't know how lucky you have it. Hey, we watch Nightmare Before Christmas? Nope.
My entire relationship is based off of the Nightmare Before Christmas. So.
Wait, Jennifer sewn together?
Yeah. You didn't know?
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
See, I live in an inverted sort of situation where my wife doesn't like the slasher stuff. So she'll watch true crime, doesn't mind real blood, real dead people, shit like that, doesn't care. You throw fake blood at her and it's gag fest. Like she's not into it at all. So we watch a lot of paranormal stuff, and like Conjuring is one of those, there's nothing else on, pop it on sort of movies for us. So it's weird to hear everyone be like, my wife won't watch that or my husband won't watch that, but they'll watch people killing each other. My wife's like, nope. Forensic Files. Let's go to sleep to that, though.
So she can't watch The Boys then, I assume, because there's a lot of blood in The Boys.
We haven't gotten there yet, but probably not. I would imagine that's not going to be
especially this season.
Yeah.
This season is gotten so gross. It's not even horror, and there's so much blood in it. It's so crazy. So one of my favorite types of film, actually, just because I like to laugh, is horror comedy. Horror comedy movies to me are just a load of fun. So I'd love to know what you guys enjoy. I'll go ahead and say mine real quick, just because if you haven't watched it, I do recommend it. It's Bubba Hotep. It's Bruce Campbell.
Oh my God, I forgot about that one.
Bubba, it's a lot of fun. It's got him starring as a nursing home resident who claims he's Elvis Presley, who has a black friend who claims to be JFK. So it's a lot of fun. But how about we start out?
He doesn't claim to be Elvis Presley. He is Elvis Presley.
Well, right, exactly, yes. But the other fella does claim to be JFK, who got patched up and for some reason died black, and then left and abandoned in a nursing home. So that was a really interesting character. So
you narrate the movie or summarize the movie so eloquently, Keith.
I haven't even gotten into any of the plot elements in that movie at all.
It's been so long since I've seen that.
Good movie. Who do we start out with? Casey, do you have a favorite horror comedy? I know you've got unlimited time here, so we'll get you first.
I'm gonna give you two. First for TV, What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
End of story. Enough said. Don't even have to explain that one. Mm-hmm. And then the Happy Death Day films. Loved them. My teenage daughter and I bonded over that. The Happy Death Day first one, and then the Happy Death Day to You. Both of those I think are great. I think they're very well done with the time travel added on to can they or can they not stop the serial killer. Both of those I think are very good.
Shelley.
I don't know if you call it horror, but I always love Beetlejuice. That's one of my
It is
so good.
I say it is. Yeah.
I like that one.
So
nobody has answered the right movie yet.
All right, well, Greg, let's do you.
Greg.
There is only one correct answer to this question.
Ghostbusters.
No, because Ghostbusters doesn't really. Ghostbusters is a comedy movie. It's
I know
a
where you're
science
going.
fiction movie. Ghostbusters is not a horror movie.
I think I know where you're going.
Where do you think I'm going?
So I think you're going Evil Dead.
That's
close.
That was my backup answer.
What is it?
Close.
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness.
Yes. Army of Darkness is clearly the best comedy horror movie ever made.
So, you know what? You're not wrong.
You're wrong if you say anything else.
You're not wrong.
Well, why didn't you go last then? I follow the wrong answer, the right answer.
While I do agree that it's amazing, I live in a different part of that Sam Raimi sort of World, where I think Drag Me to Hell
That was awesome too.
That one is my favorite horror comedy, and the comedy part's very debatable there. I think it's funny as hell, but it's
Yeah.
So John, what was your answer to the? Was it in fact Army of Darkness or?
Oh no, Evil Dead was my backup because I thought Shelly was going to. She already mentioned it earlier. I thought she was going to take it, so I had to have a backup. But I swear I wrote these down before we started, and it's Cabin in the Woods is my favorite horror comedy.
Oh, nice.
Because it hits every trope of horror movies, and including the detail of being like almost exactly 90 minutes.
That is true.
Absolutely. So Sam Raimi. Apparently, Sam Raimi is apparently the winner here. He wins the director of horror comedy in general. I think because he got 3 votes, basically 3 different films.
I was going to add on, Shelley, that recently, because obviously there's a lot of spooky crap that goes on in this house. My daughter, in the mornings, we've been watching this Disney Junior show called Vampirina. Kind of cool.
Vampirina kicks ass, dude.
Yeah. So pretty cool. But I've also used that as an opportunity to introduce her to the Beetlejuice 90s cartoon.
Oh, there you go.
So we've been watching that a lot lately.
Nice.
And she digs it. And as much as a 6-month-old can dig it, but you can tell she digs it.
Nice. Going back to Sam Raimi, is Spider-Man 3 technically a horror comedy? Because there's some
pretty
parts
scary.
of that, but
Pretty damn scary movie. That's a spoopy movie.
Part spooky, part poopy.
Yes. 100% spoopy.
That might be my Halloween costume. Black hair Peter Parker.
I dig it. I dig it. So we really dove into the deep end with this panel and started out with the absolute kind of goriest side of the spectrum when it comes to Halloween. What I'm interested, because I really enjoy this section of it. What's everyone's favorite like non-horror kind of Halloween movie or show?
Buffy.
No.
Buffy? Okay.
But I mean, that's still horror elements. That's a ton of horror elements.
Twilight
So
Zone.
it has to be. Oh, so we're talking not horror related whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
jeez, that's
Not
tough.
horror, but Halloween related, or just
So for me,
Spooky.
it's the 90s Addams Family movies.
Oh.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it just has Halloween elements, but it's not necessarily scary or horror or anything.
Yeah. And like What We Do in the Shadows, great example of that.
I stick with Buffy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you consider Twilight Zone in that role?
Sure.
Yeah,
It
totally.
definitely has spooky elements to it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to go with Outer Limits then. I love Outer Limits.
Hmm.
I used to watch that thing all the time. Every time I get a chance.
Totally.
Have you guys seen the Slasher TV show? Like literally called Slasher?
Mm-mm.
I had never heard about it before, and a friend of mine and I were talking about it. And
It's the anthology, right? It's the anthology.
yeah, it's an anthology, and so there's 3 seasons of it. It got picked up by Netflix. I think Netflix or Amazon. I don't whichever one picked it up. It got picked up from where it was, and they haven't definitively said yes or no to another season. So there might be another season, but there's actors that are in all 3, but it's not. It's a different story every time. But they have sort of like American Horror Story. They kind of have the same actors throughout. It's awesome. You guys should all watch it. It's so good. Really, really, really good. Especially the third season was amazing.
Is it on Netflix?
I think. Let me look. I'm pretty sure it's Netflix. I think Netflix. Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's called Slasher. It's awesome. It's for sure. You got to watch it, and it's violent. It's gory too.
It's going to load all my wife's queue, and hilarity will ensue.
So what about you, Shelley or John? What favorite non-spooky, spooky non-horror Halloween movie or show?
Maybe like Hocus Pocus or something, or
That's
The
a good
Witches
one.
of Eastwich or something like that. I like that.
Oh yeah.
Any of y'all watch Supernatural?
Yeah, love it.
I love Supernatural. I'm so bummed it's over.
I am too, but I'm excited to see where it goes.
Okay, so it finally ended.
Well, it's not yet. It got put off by COVID, but they came back and like they've just like this is the second week of like the last 6 episodes.
Okay, that is why I've been holding out. I wanted it to be done so I could just really knock it out.
Dude, it's 15 seasons. You could probably go ahead and start.
I watched all of Friends in 30 days. I can do this.
All right.
For those who need to do the math, that averages to 17 episodes a day.
It's pretty insane where that show went, because I started watching it and I think I got maybe 3 episodes in before something else came up and I stopped watching it.
For Supernatural?
Yeah, for Supernatural, and I for whatever reason, life just gets in the way, and I go from them sort of discovering, or them working to sort after their father dies to kill off demons or whatever, and then I sort of jump back in maybe 5 or 6 seasons later, and suddenly there's angels everywhere, and there's all this sort of heaven and hell discussion going on.
Oh yeah, the big bad this season is God.
Yeah, God's the person they're trying to get rid of.
Oh my God, I'm so into this show now.
Dude, you gotta watch it. It's seriously the best show.
Ironically, Brian watches that and he loves it. But
it's great. I love it. I think you've done a very good job.
That's insane. And that kind of reminds me of the old Incarnations of Immortality series written by Piers Anthony, where humans become these incarnations of gods after the gods that are currently those gods either die or they just want to stop being gods. And they do Mars, they do death, they do time, they do Gaia. And then the last book in that series is God. God's like, all right, I'm done. And so they have to find someone to replace God in those instances. So it's a very interesting book series. All right. I personally want to know this one myself, because obviously you guys are all attracted to horror and Halloween type stuff. What would you say is the scariest moment of your life in actuality, in reality? Where do we start? Gifford, let's go with you first.
Oh, geez. Related to supernatural stuff or not related to supernatural stuff?
I mean, a scariest moment for a lot of people would be like, I was in a car accident and I nearly died. But I think probably supernatural would be a lot more fun for this particular episode.
Well, I lived in a house that was haunted, so there were some various kind of freaky things that happened, but I never felt scared. But I stayed in a haunted hotel for a conference a couple of years ago, and I did not know the hotel was haunted until I talked to someone who had a really, really bad experience the year before that she basically described like, think of The Exorcist and Amityville Horror combined, and it was that bad or worse. And the hotel staff knew about it, and like she had to like leave a room at 2 a.m. because of all the shenanigans going on. And the staff was like, we'll go get your bags and your stuff for you in the morning when all the occurrences have calmed down. So that was that was interesting. And so then that night I was in a room, and she told me that they were aware of multiple rooms on property that had regular occurrences. Oh. And so I woke up and there was a not pleasant, let's call it entity in the room doing stuff to try to fuck with me, and it was kind of scary. I almost got up and checked out, but luckily I was drunk enough from the party that I ended up just putting a pillow over my head and passing out. But it was the 30 minutes of shenanigans was pretty scary.
Is it a hotel in Dallas?
No, it was in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm going to pistol whip the next one of you that says shenanigans. Hey, Farva, what's your favorite restaurant with all the tchotchkes on the wall? Shenanigans?
When the staff says, "Oh, we're aware of occurrences," like you gotta phrase it like that. That's terrifying.
That is. John, you got any terrifying moments of your life personally?
I mean, like I've been in some houses where you walk in and you're immediately like, "Oh, this is for sure haunted. I'm not buying this house." But like, truly, like made me like nope out of a situation. So there's always a scene in a movie where they walk around the corner and then there's like the bad guy just standing there in the middle of a room or a road. And I had one of those situations where I went to school, like briefly studied abroad in Austria, and like small town, not a big city, like a small town. And like we decided, me and like 2 other people that we were with decided to go on a walk at night. We were just like bored and didn't feel like going out to drink or anything. So we just walked around. And it started raining and we were lost. And we were like, all right, it's raining. We're lost. Like, let's just head back. And we're going, it's all cobblestone. And you turn a corner and there's this like really older woman, looks like she's a witch, like wearing this classic witch outfit, standing by herself, swaying back and forth by herself in the middle of a road at night.
That's creepy.
It was really creepy. We were just like, I don't know if that's where we're supposed to go, but we're not going that way.
Let's see. Shelly, got any scary moments? You obviously spent some time in some tunnels in your life.
Yes. So those were like intentionally, like I feel like you go in them to be scared. But probably I feel like the moments that are the most scariest are the ones you don't anticipate. And the one that sticks out to me was every summer I used to actually go to camp down off the Mississippi River. And it was really remote camp, and it was actually up a hill, up on a bluff overlooking the river. And the last night, we always usually sleep in cabins, but the very last night of camp before we go home, we always camp out in tents in the woods. And so we, just normal. It's not even that far, like maybe a 3-minute walk kind of in the woods from where all the main cabins and all of that is. So we get really tucked in, ready for bed. And one of my friends was like, I have to use the bathroom and I cannot do it out here. And so the camp counselor was like, well, buddy system, you got to take someone with you. Mm-hmm. So we, go to walk back up the hill basically. And we get out onto the road and we're not all that far away from where the tents were and all of that. And out of the corner of our eye, we see just this guy standing there, and he's like, I don't even know what he said, but we hear this deep voice. It was like a growl. And we instantly run and we're screaming, because like this is a girls' camp. And all of a sudden there's this random guy, like no men should be on the property whatsoever. And it was terrifying. And we didn't even get that far. We were just screaming. Of course, everyone comes running out of the tents, like the counselors, and with flashlights. And so I thought that was my scariest moment, but like no one could find this person ever. There's 3 of us all together, and we all saw it. We all heard it. And that was probably the creepiest. Like to this day, I'm like, what was that? Like so scary.
Oh man, that's intense. Casey, you got any scary moments like running out of bourbon or bacon?
I once had someone, I had to go on a blind date once and they took me to a vegan restaurant. I don't know how. I thought it was, I don't know how I even got out of that. It was crazy. No meat anywhere? No, sir. No, it's just a vegan restaurant.
Oh man,
my hair is standing up on edge thinking about it right now.
Terrifying.
No. I mean, as John said, car accidents. I mean, everyone's been in car accidents. I've been in more than my share, and we had an interesting situation, a 2-car accident. It's funny now, but what happened was, I told you the story about taking the wife to the Scream Zone. Mm-hmm. And we had another couple down there. And on the way back home, it was well after midnight before we made it all back up here to Ramona, which is East San Diego County. And I was following her. She was in a like a crossover kind of car, and I had a white Nissan SUV, Pathfinder or whatever. And coming from us in the other direction was this van, and the van was going at a very high rate of speed. We could see it coming because it's a relatively flat road. And it came around a corner and it literally went over into my wife's lane, and it looked like she was going to get hit head on. And she pulled over, she jabbed on her brakes and pulled over to the side, and the guy corrected at the last minute. They went back over to his lane and passed us. Well, she jammed on her brakes so hard that I back-ended her. So I in my Nissan Pathfinder literally crushed her car. Now, I managed to like move my car over enough on the left lane that it was only kind of a glancing blow. But what happened was that when I hit her car, it had caused both of my car doors to lock. Couldn't get out. And so it's dark, And she had gone up a couple of feet. And so she gets out of her car and she keeps waiting for me to get out of my car, and I can't get out. So she's, of course, heightened with anxiety, thinking that I'm injured or something. And finally, I managed to crawl over and get out of the back end of my car. And it was like a couple of seconds for me to climb over the back of the seat, get out the back end of the car, and come around and meet her. And yeah, that was not good. You come to find out, we know a lot of police officers, and we managed to call one really quickly. And the highway patrolman came down, and the highway patrolman who came to assess the situation was our neighbor. And we were telling him all this stuff, and he says, yeah, I wanted you guys to know that they caught him. Numerous people had reported him speeding through Ramona. The guy didn't even know he'd gone through Ramona. He was actually trying to get to Ramona and stop. And he went through Ramona like 5 minutes before. So he had no idea where he was, and they ended up booking him in, and he had like some ridiculous, like 5 times the legal limit. Good times.
Yes.
Ooh.
That was Halloween. We went to Scream Zone on Halloween.
That was a future horror movie in the making there. The spirits of people he killed haunting him the rest of his life. That's pretty insane. Man, Jesse, you got any scary moments?
So mine are always, it's not necessarily scary moments. I do have a couple of times where I almost died that really sucked. But I mean, throughout my life, I've always kind of picked up on things and seen things. So those, it's one of those things I tune out, and when it happens, it's really bad. So it sucks. But I think it's more of looking back on some stuff that happened when I was really little. My grandfather and my dad used to travel a bunch to teach nuclear pharmacy in California. And every now and then we would go out with them. And keep in mind, my grandfather died when I was like 5. So, I mean, I was really little when all of this stuff happened. But evidently there was a time when we were in the hotel room, or, you know, whatever that we were staying in, and there were no windows. And I just randomly turn around and say, Papa will be here in like 2 minutes, and knock on the door. He's here. So my parents were always kind of like, whoa, that's really weird. There was evidently another time within not too long after that where I turned around randomly to them and said, my great grandmother, let's set her name, is going to die on this date. And they wrote the date down. And evidently it was like 3 days from several years later when she actually died. Whoa. So at the age of 3, I predicted my great grandmother's death within a week of when she actually did die. So it's not necessarily like super scary stuff that's happened to me, other than the obvious almost dying a few times. But it's looking back on shit like that going, oh, that's really intense. And now having a kid going, oh, please, God, don't ever do that. I believe it. So, yeah. What about you, Mr. Can't suspend your disbelief?
No, like, honestly, I got to be honest. I've tried to find scary moments in my life. I've actively sought them out. If someone told me that a graveyard was haunted, I went to that graveyard. If somebody told me a house was haunted, I'd go to that house. There was a bridge that was on top of Bowcatcher Mountain in Asheville, North Carolina. They said someone hung themselves from, and on a moonlit night, you can see the body hanging from the bridge. And so I drove, and I both sat under the bridge and then went on top of the bridge. Nothing, so I've actively sought these things out. But I will say this: I think I have a burgeoning level of OCD that's sort of hidden and deep inside of my subconscious, because I have this recurring dream where in my mind I believe that there is a certain pattern of activities I need to engage in before going to bed, or I will enable a demon to come into my house, which I don't believe in demons. So, and I will wake up in the middle of the night, realizing that I forgot to turn the dial on this one thing a certain number of clicks before I went to bed, and then I'll lean up and, like, I'm still half asleep at this moment, and I'll see a figure at the bottom of my bed, and of course, in reality, I'll jump out of bed and I'll start running through the house looking for this supposed demon. Of course, I'll come to full consciousness and realize, oh, what a stupid dream. Then I'll go back to bed and I'm done for. But I do have this sort of burgeoning OCD where I'm like, oh, there's a certain pattern I needed to follow before going to bed. But yeah, subconsciously, maybe I am afraid of things, but consciously, I fear nothing.
See, when you started bringing up OCD, I thought you were going to say that you had this reoccurring dream that you keep going to bed without cleaning all of the supplies at your bar. promptly. So maybe
Like that would
waited an
happen.
hour. Yeah, exactly. So, my cutting board's been dirty for over an hour.
Bacteria.
Yeah. So we're living in a very interesting time right now, and that's obviously in the 13 episodes that we have been doing this podcast through the pandemic, it's come up a little bit. And I mean, from a horror movie lover perspective, we're kind of living in a controlled horror movie, more or less.
Simulated reality.
Yeah. We're living in a Dustin Hoffman movie.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was wondering, how is everyone, especially because most of us have families, how are you dealing with Halloween during a pandemic? What are you doing? Like for us, we've been dressing the kiddo up in Halloween themed clothes all month. She's got a couple costumes. We're going to her grandparents' house, but I mean, it's not the thing that I've built up in my mind for 32 years of what my kid's first Halloween would be.
Right.
So, I mean, what are you guys doing to at least kind of keep it somewhat normal?
I mean, I've gotten lucky this year. My kids are finally have gotten a bit older, so I don't necessarily feel like they're going to be devastated if they can't go trick-or-treating or anything. Dylan's probably the only one at this point. But they haven't, what's weird is no one's really discussed it. Like, what's the plan for the communities? And I brought it up with Brian. I was like, well, maybe we can put together like little individual treat bags and stuff. I don't know, because I don't want, obviously kids' hands in a bucket of candy, and stuff like that. But I told the kids, I was like, we're just going to buy a bunch of candy and you guys can eat it. Like, you're not going anywhere. I don't know. We'll just watch scary movie. Brian will let me watch scary movies. That's pretty much it.
I think it depends on where you are. I mean, we're in a very conservative area of San Diego County. I know it's hard to believe here in California that they exist. And they're literally, people are committed to having a normal Halloween. They're doing Main Street trick-or-treating. People have already said we are going to have trick-or-treating door to door. There's big areas here in the San Diego Country Estates that where we live, which is kind of an organized community with about 2,200 homes, that they're going to have regular trick-or-treating. We're going to see how that goes. There are Halloween parties. It's crazy. Yeah.
That's so funny to me. You've got a very conservative group of people, and they're like, we will celebrate this pagan holiday.
Yeah, that's it. We are going to celebrate this pagan holiday. Yeah, we really have to be cognizant of it. I mean, we've been invited to Halloween parties. Whether we're going to go, we don't know. Certainly, if we did, maybe I'll go as a bubble guy, and I'll just be in a bubble.
Yep.
Yeah. And of course, we already mentioned the drive-by haunted houses. I'm definitely going to take the kids to do that tomorrow night. So that's, where I think everyone's trying to be as normal as they can, circumstances as they are.
If you go anywhere in a bubble and, the bubble boy joke doesn't fly for some reason, just say that you are an attendee of a Flaming Lips concert.
There you go. Done. I will do that.
There you go.
I actually have to jump on another call, guys, so I got to let you go. But I just want to let you know that my favorite Halloween candy is tie between circus peanuts and candy corn. So let the hate begin.
I love candy corn.
Love me some circus peanuts, especially the softer the better. Throw in some orange slices and some baby roots, and we're good to go. Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks,
Good to see you, buddy.
Bye, Casey.
So what about you, John? What are you doing this year, especially with a new kiddo?
Well, at 3 months old, there's not much like trick-or-treating going on.
Sure there is.
Can we get the candy for him? Like,
No.
it's for
No.
no. And again, much like Casey, I live in a very conservative part of Texas, which is I know hard to believe, east of Dallas. But we're probably gonna just hunker in. We're too paranoid about everything with a newborn, so we're just gonna stay in and watch movies and probably eat our own candy.
Same, pretty much.
Gifford?
Yeah, like Penny, all of my oldest is in high school. He doesn't really care. He just likes to scare kids on Halloween. But the two littles, they don't even really care about dressing up so much. Like, we're still going to dress up. We're still going to get them costumes just because it's kind of fun. But what they really care about is they want to carve pumpkins, because we didn't carve pumpkins last year for whatever reason. We were busy, or I don't even remember why, but we just didn't carve pumpkins last year. And they don't even care so much that they don't get to go trick-or-treating. All they care about this year is we want to carve pumpkins. And we're like, okay, well, if that's your biggest takeaway from Halloween this year, then that's easy, you know?
Sweet.
And then we're going to do and since they don't get to go out and go trick-or-treating, we're going to buy a bunch of candy and just do a candy scavenger hunt at the house.
Nice.
So kind of like looking for Easter eggs, but looking for little bags of candy. So
That's awesome.
That's brilliant.
Maybe I'll hide my bags out in the yard and we'll put a sign on the door.
Yeah.
See, we had a similar line of thinking as you, Shelly. We were going to do a bunch of individually wrapped bags and just line them up in our driveway. But then again, I don't want to be the dude that was the center for COVID contraction here in the neighborhood. So it was like, man,
that, or you have some jackass high school kid that's like, ooh, free candy, and they come take it all and ruin the point.
Yeah.
Then they have to deal with Sam from Trick or Treat, and that's none of my business. So,
right?
Yeah.
Too funny. Is that a real axe in the background there, Shelly, or is that just a decoration?
Oh, no, totally real.
Did you wedge the door and that's how you keep the kids out?
Yes, I was wondering. Is that okay?
It's really, really effective at scaring the kids.
Do you use that you use that to knock on their door and go, "Here's Johnny"?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So, okay, that brings up a point that I'm super interested in, and I know Greg will be too. So my transition here is here's Johnny, The Shining. The Shining movie is excellent. The book is better. Horror books. What's everyone's line of thinking here? Favorite one? Anyone have a favorite? Mine would be either The Shining or Salem's Lot.
Any of the Stephen King ones, they're all really good.
R.L. Stein, though.
I dig it. I dig it. Nothing like the sponge underneath the sink, which that did scare the shit out of me as a little kid. So
actually, you know what's funny is Brian and I were just talking. He has this weird tendency to tuck our comforter like as tight as possible around the bed. And he says he cannot have his feet dangling off the side like at all. And it all comes from those Garbage Pail Kids. In the cartoon from when we were younger, because there was an alligator that liked to eat little kids' toes. And it was if they were dangling off the bed.
All right.
It was a blast from the past. He had to pull it out and show it to Dylan the other night because she's like, "Why do you do that?" And he's like, "I'm still traumatized by that."
So basically what you're telling us, Brian, is just a gigantic scaredy.
He totally when he shuts the lights off in the room, like he usually has me do it, but you'll hear him little feet run as fast as possible onto the bed.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm so excited to see Brian again and use this all against him.
You absolutely should.
I'm so stoked.
For Christmas, just get him like an Alexa or a Google Home, and just have the smart lights so he can just go, Alexa, turn off the lights or whatever. That way he doesn't have to run after turning off the lights.
And it's so entertaining. I love it.
Poor guy. Now everybody listening to the show is going to run up to him behind him at the next conference and go boo, and just try to scare him.
Greg, Keith, you got any horror books that you enjoy?
I really enjoyed The Strain, the series The Strain. The TV show sucked, but the books were enjoyable. I like those a lot. It's not really horror, but the Passage series, also about vampires, was really good too. I like that a lot.
I dig it.
I'm trying to remember the name of this book.
I gotta go ahead. I have to Google it. I don't remember what the name of the book is.
Okay, so there's a book called The Historian. And
I've read that. Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's about like Count Dracula, but it's just such a cool weave of real history, which I think is super cool. And with like this, nonfiction and fiction story all in one, which I think is super cool. But if you like Dracula and vampires and all, and
I've heard about that one. I've heard it's really good.
I read it in a day because I could not put it down.
Wow, that's a big book too. It's not a small book.
Very good. It was a good 15 solid hours.
The Hatching.
Ooh.
Oh, I don't know The Hatching.
Oh man, it is creepy as fuck, and it just stops. And I read it when it came out, and so then it just stops, and book 2 picks up literally exactly where book 1 stopped, but I had to wait a year for that to come out, and then I'd wait another year for the third one to come out. But it's a 3-book series, and basically what it is, they're digging at the Nazca lines in Peru, and one of the Nazca lines is a giant spider, and they unearth this box that has this spider egg in it, and it turns out it's this ancient species of spiders that almost decimated humanity millions of years ago, that these Nazca people that made the lines figured out how to stop them and stopped them. But now because they unearthed it, they come back and they all hatch and they come out and just decimate humanity. And it's just, if you don't like spiders, man, you don't want to read this book. It is crazy good, but it's really scary. It's good. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
I have a serious answer. So it wasn't R.L. Stine. It's actually a comic book. It's Serious House on Serious Earth. It's Grant Morrison's take on Arkham Asylum, and it's basically Batman going in, doing like the movie The Raid, basically doing that in Arkham Asylum. But like the artwork itself is truly terrifying. Very different. I'm going to post a link to some Google image link, but like it's truly one of the most terrifying like comic books you can read. It took me a couple days to get through.
That's awesome. I've never heard of that.
It's intense.
And I'm a big Grant Morrison fan. I loved his book Super Gods, or was it? Yeah, Super Gods. Or no,
okay.
It's basically his take on basically the mythology behind Superman and how it sort of plays into our sense of gods versus these superheroes. And then he sort of he does a weird shift at the very end of that where he starts talking about chaos magic. The last
of course
2 or 3 chapters of the book are about chaos magic and how they're important to his life.
Serious House on Serious Earth is before he started doing drugs. So to get into this mind state, he just did sleep deprivation.
Wow.
And so he would wait until he just was like so delirious from sleep deprivation, and then he would start writing.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah. Very interesting.
The worst kind of method.
Well, I'm going to need to recommend a Japanese writer, by the way.
Of course you are. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't I? That's just my MO. You have probably seen the movie Audition.
You recommended it, so everyone should have. Yeah,
there is a book though called by Ryu Murakami. And I only happened upon this book after seeing the Audition movie. After I was looking for some Haruki Murakami stuff, and they just happened to be right next to each other in the bookstore. But yeah, Ryu Murakami has a book version of Audition. So if you want to be completely disturbed and never want to date again twice, you can read the book in addition to watching the movie. It is an absolutely terrifying book about a poor widower who happens to have a very skeezy friend who's a producer, a movie producer. He's spent most of his life, his child's life, raising his child, and hasn't bothered dating. And his friend says, "Well, I tell you what, let's have an audition, a quote unquote audition, where we bring in all these women who meet your ideal woman standard, and you can take one out. And she has to go out with you because she'll think you're a producer." He meets this perfect woman, and like what's really disturbing about the movie itself is the way that the music makes you believe that this is sort of an ideal romance, and they're having such a wonderful time. And then he realizes she's a psycho, and she has a man in a bag in her apartment. So anyway.
I recently moved, and my wife, we're like packing movies. My wife goes, "What is this movie?" I'm like, "Nope, don't even ask. Nope, not watching it."
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. So, and it is terrifying.
So, looking at the time, I believe we have made it to the lightning round. Lightning round. Crackle, crackle, crackle.
Well, we've changed it up a little bit this time around. Normally, we ask the same 3 questions of all the guests, and so we thought, why not get a little spooky with this one and come up with some Halloween questions for the lightning round. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I gave you guys these questions early on, so you should have a fairly quick answer to this, and we'll go in order of how I see you on my screen. So it'll be Shelly, Greg, and then John. And so we will begin. Question number 1. If you had to choose, which horror movie villain would you be? Shelly.
Carrie.
Okay.
Well done.
Greg.
Pinhead.
Ooh, nice.
Book version or movie version?
Oh, probably book version.
You're a lady.
The book version's so much scarier and fucked up, though.
True.
Yeah. John.
Andrew Tully from Hell House.
Oh, nice. Okay, this is a strong recommendation coming from you for Hell House, and I don't think I've seen that. So I need to.
First one's good, second one's better, and it explains a lot more.
Nice.
You have to watch them succinctly.
Very nice. Okay, what is your favorite Halloween candy, Shelly?
Halloween Oreos. I get so excited as soon as I see them on the shelves every year.
Awesome. Greg?
Twix candy bars.
Ooh, dig it. And John?
Reese's.
Reese's. Big cups, little cups, pieces?
Big. Little's just rude.
It is rude. It is. Go full sized. I feel like they were bigger when I was a kid too, but maybe it's because my hands were smaller. I don't know. All right. Last question. If you had to wear a single costume or cosplay year round, what would it be?
Oh, I'd probably do Daenerys Targaryen. And she's so cool. Not very scary, but she always looks badass. I mean,
get a little cold in the winter, but yeah, right. That's true. That is true. Greg.
Oh, gosh, man, that'd be tough. That's so weird. I mean, because that doesn't just go Halloween. That if you're talking cosplay, that's like anything. I mean, it's
you got to walk down the street in this. You've got to speak at conferences in this.
Hard. Jeez. I think it would be badass to be Khan.
Oh wait, are you talking about the original Khan?
Star Trek 2. Star Trek 2.
Okay.
Wrath of Khan. Ricardo Montalban.
Okay, gotcha.
That would be a pretty stellar, because you got to do something that not a lot of people are going to do. You know, because it's pointless to wear the same costume that a bunch of other people are going to wear. So you got to kind of go out there on the edge and do something a little different. Awesome.
John?
I would be Morpheus from the Sandman series and just tell everyone I'm from Depeche Mode.
What's funny is you could have chosen Tony Robbins as your costume or cosplay, but you guys went with the actual characters. I'm actually impressed by that. Yeah. If you dressed up as Tony Robbins year round, well, you could just look like everybody else.
Well, I was going to do that. Maybe like Lucifer from Lucifer. He wears a nice suit. But
that is true. That is true. It'd be hard to go swimming in that, though, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Well, that is our Halloween edition of the Lightning Round.
So with that, I think we are at time. Thank you all for attending the first ever panel and first ever Halloween panel of the Austin Otaku Podcast. We appreciate having you on and hope everyone has a safe Halloween.
Thank you for joining us for episode 13.
This has been a special Halloween edition of the Austin Otaku Podcast. To learn more about us and our show, to be a guest, or to subscribe to our show, go to www.austinotaku.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Happy Halloween!